I'm here to talk about my own life.
Okay, well, I hope it's an interesting story. I mean, this is TEDx, and TEDx has standards.
In the first half of my life, I struggled to be a normal guy, to be a real man. That didn't turn out so well.
So you're not a normal guy? You're not a real man? Or the struggle to become one? Yeah, I don't understand.
The good news is, in the second half of my life, I gave that up, and things worked out much better.
You gave up trying to be a normal guy and a real man. And just look at how happy it has made you. But seriously, and I know it's a little late in the game to be advising you of this, but why not just try to be yourself?
So, why the change of course? Well, it was an unexpected encounter with radical feminist writing that critiqued patriarchy.
Patriarchy? God help us all!
It led to meeting radical feminists living in a patriarchal society who critiqued men's sexual exploitation of women in the pornography industry, part of a patriarchal society that needed to be challenged by radical feminism.
So you met feminists who hate men who like porn because you couldn't come to terms with whatever passes for your masculinity. Is that what I am to understand?
Now, you might have noticed I used radical feminist critique of patriarchy 3 times in that previous sentence.
I didn't actually, but okay.
And that's my job. That's probably the most important part of my job.
Repeating yourself?
To be a man who stands up and repeats those terms, radical feminist critique of patriarchy, as often as possible until people stop being afraid of those terms.
So, attempting to seed an idea into people's heads through repetition, like a mantra, or a prayer, for radical feminism, which isn't creepy in the slightest. Got it.
Now, I realize that's what we might call the kind of inescapable irony of being me. I leverage my presumed authority as a man to argue that that system that gives me that authority is very dangerous.
Yeah, it's almost like you're making up reasons to hate yourself for what you are, or something.
Right. Now, my own embrace of radical feminism was neither quick nor easy. What I'd like to do is explain it to you today, to talk about why that radical feminist critique of patriarchy is so important not only for women, but for men.
Oh, so you are going to sell me on radical feminism? So I can be a better, healthier man like you are?
The evidence I want to offer is my own life.
Anecdotal evidence is anecdotal.
I was born in the American Midwest, the third of 4 children, into a very conventional family, which of course means a highly dysfunctional family. Yeah.
You know, you just might be the saddest man I have ever profiled, next to Matthew Solomon.
Myself, I was short, skinny, effeminate growing up. I had no observable athletic ability and was rather bookish. But by the time I went to college, I was struggling to outgrow that kind of misfit profile, and I was doing my best to be a normal guy.
Uh-huh. I think that's called growing up.
Although I started later than most men, I eventually dated, had sex with women, told incredibly stupid sexist jokes with male friends. I used pornography, and I wallowed in my unhappiness.
And just look how far you've come since then.
What changed for me was encountering a very unexpected encounter with radical feminism and a chance to change. Right? Now, what is radical feminism? It's a critique of institutionalized male dominance. Women are more familiar with it than men, but for men it's very important as well.
Well, I can see that it is important to you, but I'm waiting to hear how it is important to me that I need to start hating myself for what I am and look upon all women as victims of my very existence.
Although I grew up in that skinny, nerdy category, and it's easy to understand why I never felt like I was a real man.
Well, I grew up in that skinny, nerdy category, but I never questioned my masculinity so much as I lacked sociability. Maybe you were confusing one for the other?
Right? I assumed other men were doing fine, but as I got older and talked to men, I realized that even the men I thought were the standard were also struggling with that. What I learned is that every man I ever met at some point thought he wasn't man enough.
Wow. Questioning yourself. Yeah, you're right. You assumed wrong in thinking that you were the only one who was unsure about themselves. But then, I have to wonder, have you never talked to another man before? Or even another human being? Have you never seen a coming-of-age movie? Because the idea that this was some grand revelation for you that late in life seems a little bit incredible.
And that's not surprising, because masculinity in patriarchy, that is, again, masculinity in a system of institutionalized male dominance, is relentlessly competitive, focused on conquest, which leads to inevitable confrontations, all with the quest of staying in control of oneself and controlling others.
Women are never competitive. Women never seek to achieve anything. Women never have control issues. And all men are out to control others. Got it.
But here's the thing. No matter how competitive one can be, no matter how many conquests, no matter how many successful confrontations, no matter how much we stay in control of ourselves, we never really feel man enough.
Sorry. What do you mean, we? Because right now, and for the whole of this talk so far, you're only talking about yourself. You first internalized your own uncertainty about your masculinity, thinking everyone else was normal, but now you're projecting your own discomfort and self-hatred onto others. And I think I know why that is. Misery loves company.
So what I want to do is outline an argument for why men should take radical feminism seriously.
All right, I am ready to be educated. Tell me why I am better off hating myself for being male.
Now, before I do that, I've been using this term patriarchy, And you might be saying to yourself, but Jensen, isn't patriarchy an outdated term? Haven't we moved past that?
Not so long as conspiratorial radical feminists like yourself keep those home fires burning, we won't.
I want to argue we have not. To do that, I'll quote an American sociologist, Alan Johnson, who said, "In patriarchy, male privilege comes from a system that is male-dominated, male-identified, and male-centered."
Ah, okay. Well, do tell me, what am I entitled to just for being a male? And where can I cash in my male privilege? Because if the whole system is built to my benefit, and by extension, your benefit, I gotta wonder why the heck I would want to dismantle such a system.
Now, if that went by too quickly, let me repeat. Male-dominated, that's a D. Male-identified, that's an I. Male-centered, that's a C. And I would add a friendly amendment to Alan's list and say, remember that in patriarchy, men also try to control knowledge. That would be a K, yeah.
So you want to dominate the conversation using radical feminism to justify your new male identity in order that you can control through repetition what passes for knowledge. Got it. Oh, wait. That spells
If you're having trouble remembering that, D-I-C-K. So let's ask ourselves, do we still not live in a dick society?
Are you asking for an answer? Or are you looking for affirmation? Because for some reason, I think it's the latter.
All right. Now, in patriarchy, men have always claimed a right to own or control women's reproductive power and women's sexuality. And for me, that is the key to radical feminist insights, that men, even in the 21st century, even nice, polite, liberal men, are there any nice, polite, liberal men in the audience today?
Well, even if there are, you've already tagged them as a part of the problem. So, good job in vilifying both a gender and political demographic in one fell swoop. I am sure that that will totally help to sell your philosophy.
That we still so often seek to control women's bodies. Now, that's why the struggle for reproductive rights and the struggle against men's violence are so central to the feminist project. And in those arenas, we have made gains. We need to defend those gains. We need to expand them.
By becoming more like you? Also, I am curious to know if he has an example outside of reproductive legislation as to how men are controlling women's bodies. Because, as we know, only men vote in favor of restricting reproductive rights.
What I want to focus on today is more distressing. It's where we have lost ground in the struggle to challenge the sexual exploitation industries. That's my term for prostitution, pornography, and stripping, where men still claim a right to own or control women's bodies.
Prostitution, porn, and stripping, wherein men pay money and women get paid to do what they do. And that's really the failure of your argument there. The word paid. There's no entitlement save for what you have in your wallet and are willing to give up. Women in this society do not generally sexually entertain a man just because he's a man. But then, I'm also not sure who really pays for porn anymore because, internet.
The sexual exploitation industries where men buy and sell objectified female bodies for sexual pleasure.
Wait. Buy and sell bodies? Are you talking about sex work? Or are you talking about human trafficking?
Now, before you rush to the defense of the sexual exploitation industries and say they empower women,
with money and adoration,
I want you to consider something. I think most of us in the room would agree we want to live in a stable, decent society with gender justice.
You do like assuming things of others, don't you? Well, okay. Will you define for us what you mean by gender justice?
The question, can you imagine creating or maintaining a stable, decent society with gender justice when one class of people, that is women and girls,
Women and girls are not a class. They are demographics. However, it is very interesting that you use that term for them.
can be routinely bought and sold for the sexual pleasure of another class of people, that is men.
Male strippers do not exist. Male prostitutes do not exist. Women never watch porn, or movies, or reality television, or dramas, or read romance novels to drool over men they find sexually attractive. Got it. Or are we talking about human trafficking?
Yes, the sexual exploitation industries are complex like any other human endeavor. But the core of them is still men buying and selling women and girls, and sometimes boys and vulnerable men, almost exclusively for the sexual pleasure of men.
Okay, I really need you to clarify whether you are talking about consensual acts between adults that have a component of monetary exchange, or if you're talking about human trafficking and sexual slavery. Because if you're conflating those things together, you are riding on a streetcar named Crazy Town.
I'm going to make two arguments. The first is what we would call the argument from justice. That if we want to live in a stable, decent society with gender justice, if we want to take seriously the values we claim to hold, values like the inherent dignity of all people, freedom, equality, if we take those values seriously, we have to challenge the sexual exploitation industries, which are such a threat to the bodily integrity of women.
So, you want to save women from having the choice to use their bodies and their sexuality to make a living for themselves. It sounds a bit, patriarchal.
That's the argument from justice. But I want to make another argument to men, that there is an argument from self-interest. That yes, in patriarchy, we get certain short-term material rewards. That being a man in patriarchy comes with some benefits.
Such as...
But it also comes at a great cost. And the cost is that because we never feel man enough, we are always in a very uneasy relationship to ourselves, to other men, and to women.
Okay, I want everyone to listen to that last statement one more time But in your mind, I want you to replace every instance of the word we with the word I.
And the cost is that because we never feel man enough, we are always in a very uneasy relationship to ourselves, to other men, and to women.
Yes, that seems like the more correct assessment of his sentiments, doesn't it?
That's what I'm going to call the argument from self-interest. I want to talk about in the context of pornography.
Yeah, you seem particularly obsessed with porn, which, I am certain, you have never looked at since you were baptized into radical feminism.
The argument from justice. Pornography is without a doubt the most intensely sexist and racist media genre in the world today.
Sexist and racist. Wow, okay. I do hope you tell us how it is also racist, given the preponderance of certain search terms on porn sites that I'll not even dare to mention here on family-friendly YouTube.
Sexist and racist both in the production of pornography, how women are treated in the industry, as well as in the images it produces as well. If we are serious about justice, we must challenge the pornography industry.
Challenge it? So, you're just looking for reform in the porn industry? Or do you want to get rid of it completely as it is inherently destructive to women? I'm getting some mixed signals here.
But let's face it, pornography is popular with men, especially because it works. It produces a very intense, pleasurable experience with a minimal investment.
So men should pay the equivalent of a nice meal before partaking in pornography? Well, hey, might I introduce you to the concept of cam girls?
But when our own sexuality is so tied to the use of objectified female bodies in pornography, when our own sexuality is so dependent on a sense of control over women, we lose out on the possibility of a deeper, richer, and more meaningful sense of intimacy.
All right, if porn is your only exposure to interacting with women, then sure, I suppose you can have a very warped sense of reality when it comes to sexual intimacy. So, is that what happened to you? Were you a porn addict? And did that lead you to be even more awkward with women than you might otherwise have been? And did you then internalize romantic failures and rejections as a result of your masculinity? Yeah, full disclosure, I'm not a psychologist. But I do own a couch.
Now, you might be asking, what does that look like? So let me now describe for you in some detail my own non-pornographic sexual practices.
Okay.
No, don't worry. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Though, given your hatred of your own masculinity and your vehement opposition to sexualizing women in any way, I cannot say that I'm not morbidly curious to know what you would have said.
That would be highly inappropriate here. But also, there is no recipe book for what a healthy, non-patriarchal society, sexuality would look like.
There isn't. So, porn or sexually objectifying women could still be ingredients since there's no official recipe. Got it.
Instead of description, what I want to do is offer a metaphor. In contemporary culture, we talk so often about sexuality in terms of heat. Yes, hot sex. Hot sex, we're told, is the best sex.
Uh-huh. And so you're going to advise that we all have sex in refrigerator trucks?
And that got me thinking about a phrase we use in the United States to describe an argument, a debate, which is angry, blustery, lots of shouting, but very little listening and learning. We often say such a debate produced more heat than light.
So you're advising that we keep the lights on during sex?
And that got me thinking, what if our goal in sexuality, what if the way we connect with each other physically was less about heat and more about light?
Okay, I'll bite. What is then the definition of light sex?
What if the way we touch was not in search of desperate search of hot sex, but in search of that light that can illuminate self and others in intimacy?
But what if I and my partner want to have hot, animalistic, wanton, lust-filled sex with biting and scratching just because it feels good, because it's cathartic and instinctual? What if we like having that kind of sex sometimes? Are we meant to feel guilty for having such desires just because you have classified it as forbidden fruit for yourself? And seriously, who says that hot sex can't be a form of intimate connection with another person? Oh, that's right. You.
Right. There is no intimacy instruction manual that anyone can hand you.
And yet, you proclaim to know what does and does not qualify as intimate sex. Got it.
But I do know that in my own life, after I embraced radical feminism and began that long and very difficult process of trying to dismantle my own pornographic imagination, that new space opened up for me. Right.
So, you never think about naked women anymore. You never fantasize about sexual adventures. And you never muse upon your past sexual experiences. What a bland, sad, joyless life you must lead.
That's the argument from self-interest, that if we want to be fully human, that is, if we want to go beyond just chasing pleasure, we have to critique the way we've been socialized to see women as objectified female bodies for our sexual pleasure.
If I do not think the way that you do, I am not fully human. Got it.
Now, so far I've been talking in a heterosexual context. A brief aside, gay men have a stake in this as well, because although we're told that gay men aren't real men, gay men are also socialized to act like real men.
Wait a second. We're told that gay men aren't real men, but gay men are socialized to act like real men. So, gay men aren't actually real men? I'm just... Okay, I'm confused. And also, gay men, by definition, are not in the habit of sexualizing women, only other men. So, shouldn't gay men be entirely left out of the equation that you've drawn up here? I mean, aren't they inherently a benefit to radical feminism just the way they are?
And the domination and subordination dynamic that one sees in heterosexual pornography is also present in gay pornography. I do think gay men have a stake in this as well.
So, it's not so much about gender as it is about power dynamics. That there is a dominant participant and a submissive participant in a lot of porn. And you want gender justice and light instead of heat, and to do away with that power dynamic, to strive for equality. Because you've always felt powerless, and you want everyone to operate on your level so you do not feel like the submissive anymore. Again, I only own a couch.
Our relationships can deepen when we can escape that pornographic imagination.
Having lustful thoughts and desires is a sin. Got it.
So let me now give you Robert Jensen's 3 easy steps to radical feminism for men. Yeah, there's not 3 easy steps. I was kidding again.
Maybe your ability to tell a funny joke was tossed out along with your ability to think about doing the nasty.
Right. There certainly are not only 3, they aren't easy, and I certainly do not have the ability to give them to you.
So, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Got it.
Instead, I just want to end with the recognition that when we as men are told that feminism is a threat to us, in some sense that is correct. It's a threat to our ability to hold on to what we might call normal guyness.
Because men, left to their own devices, are defective and require fixing, whereas women, left to their own devices, are practically perfect in every way. Got it.
But if we're willing to let go of the pathology of patriarchy, what we'll find is that feminism, especially the most radical feminism, the feminism we are told to fear the most, is in fact not a threat to men. It is an incredible gift to us. Thank you.
A gift, you say? Sounds more like a booby prize. Oh no. Oh no! I said booby! Oh, damn my testicles! Damn my sizable penis! I guess I'll just never learn. As always, thank you for watching.